Hi everyone, welcome to the Megaport Tech Drop-In Friday the 4th of April. You've joined the APAC Tech Drop-In. This is a informal session where we walk through some of the technical features, architectures, designs that you can build with the Megaport product set. So just to intro myself, I'm Mark Austin. I'm a pre-sales solution architect at Megaport. So I help customers architect and design multi-cloud network and security architectures using the Megaport product set. I've got today with me Chris Miles from Aviatrix. So go ahead, Chris.
Hey Mark, thanks for having me. Yeah, as you said, my name is Chris Miles. I'm a solutions engineer here at Aviatrix, based in Sydney, Australia. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. So we've got Chris here today to talk about the Aviatrix product set and how that works together with Megaport. So we're going to walk through a little bit around what Megaport Virtual Edge is. So we're not going to do an intro on the Megaport product set. We've done that a lot. You can see that on our YouTube page. So we're going to jump straight to Megaport Virtual Edge, just a quick overview of that. And we're going to switch over to Chris to walk through what Aviatrix looks like with Megaport Virtual Edge and how that extends security and networking features from the edge into the cloud. And then we're going to walk through a demo that we've put together, which shows you the capabilities of the Megaport and Aviatrix product set. So I'll just jump through a few slides here to intro the Megaport Virtual Edge. So what Megaport Virtual Edge is a global network function virtualization platform that we have in around that you can host a virtual version of either
Seems like Mark is having some connectivity issues there. Chris, do you have anything you want to present? If not, we can pause the webinar and we can wait for Mark to come back if you like.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of wait for Mark to kind of go over the details of the MVE, and then we can talk a little bit about Aviatrix. It looks like he's hopping back on
Mark.
here.
Yeah, thanks. For some reason, Zoom disconnected me. So that's what happens when things are live. So let
Yeah,
me
that's how it goes.
jump back into our Prezzo. So let's jump back here. Okay, cool. So what I was saying, you can host a number of different virtual appliances on the platform. So that removes the need for you to host something, say, physically in a data center where you may not have presence or you're trying to reduce presence. It allows you to run, hardware, virtual versions of hardware in locations where, you don't have any presence. It then basically connects the Megaport Virtual Edge platform is pre-connected to the Megaport Global Fabric. So you can build out virtual connectivity to the cloud providers, all the major cloud providers, to the 900 plus data centers globally that the Megaport Physical Fabric extends into, and to service providers on our network, examples of Cloudflare, Cisco WebEx, etc., that are already on the fabric. So you can have private, high-speed, high-quality connectivity into those environments. One of the key components of Megaport Virtual Edge is internet connectivity. So that is bundled with the product. So that is connected into the virtual appliance. And when that virtual appliance comes online, it will be connected to the internet. And a lot of these products require that the device is connected to the internet for it to connect back to some orchestration or controller type system to connect into the fabric that it's building in terms of an overlay. So I'll just jump to the next slide here. So when you are looking at deploying a virtual appliance on Megaport Virtual Edge, it's very simple in terms of what you have to consider from a Megaport perspective. You're just basically choosing a size which is based on virtual CPUs. So you can see here we offer 2, 4, 8, or 12 virtual CPU options. The memory or the RAM is based on the virtual CPU size, so that's not adjustable. The Megaport internet connection is adjustable from anywhere from 20 megabits per second up to 10 gigabits per second, and you can scale that up and down to any value in between those two. With both the CPU and internet, you can choose to deploy on no terms. So it'll just be per minute billing. So if you wanted to run something for a week or 2 weeks, you can do that to meet whatever requirement you have, or you can put both of these on a term, 12, 24, 36-month term. Some of the use cases that we see with Megaport Virtual Edge, the key ones are, cloud-to-cloud connectivity, which we're going to show today with the Secure Edge. So connecting two clouds together privately. DC to cloud, so having a Megaport Virtual Edge connected to a physical data center port, which is then providing connectivity onwards to the cloud providers, and also providing multi-cloud connectivity. The two at the bottom, so virtual security core, so that will be the ability to build out firewall connectivity or firewall in terms of our firewall vendors that we support. So you'll be able to provide security services without requiring a physical firewall. And then you've got virtual edge access, which is, you would look at that as something like an SD-WAN hub virtually deployed on the Megaport Virtual Edge, whereas you will have physical branches connecting in over the internet to that, and then providing branch to cloud connectivity. So they're the key use cases that we see with Megaport Virtual Edge. So some of them require no physical data center presence at all. Some, like the DC to cloud, will extend to a physical data center port. So I'm going to hand over to Chris now to share his screen to talk through what we're going to see today with Aviatrix.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and pop up my share here. I don't have any slides, so we're gonna go straight into diagrams, and I'll kind of give you a quick brief introduction as to what Aviatrix is and what we do. Mark, just to clarify for me, you can see my screen, right? Is everything legible here? Okay, cool. So essentially, Aviatrix is responsible for, we basically operate a cloud networking security platform that resides in public cloud environments and also extends into private environments, such as ones you may be connecting to via Megaport, right? So the way we do that is, essentially we build an overlay network on top of the existing cloud networks. And we do that for the sake of our operators to have a common set of network security tooling, architecture, and visibility across all the environments, right? So if you're in a multi-cloud environment, usually you have different architectures, you have different tooling, you have different visibility options in all of those. So we seek to unify that in one consistent overlay across the board, right? So if you kind of take a look at this diagram that I have pulled up here, I can kind of walk through what the components are. So the first and foremost, we have a centralized control plane, right? So a control plane is consisting of the controller, which is kind of that orchestration engine. And then we have a Aviatrix Copilot, which is basically your one-stop shop where you're going to log in to do any configuration, troubleshooting, etc. So that's all built into the control plane. And then the data plane element is basically these series of gateways. So if you see here, we have a transit VPC and a transit VNet built here with some of our Aviatrix transit gateways. And then we even have an Aviatrix edge gateway, as we refer to it, running down here in Megaport on the MVE platform. And one thing that's important to remember is every bit of connectivity that we build between our gateways is encrypted with IPsec. And we have a patented technology called high performance encryption so that we can do that at near line rate without taking the initial performance impact that you typically see when building IPsec in the cloud. It's usually limited to about 1.25 gigs. So we can do line rate encryption to and from the cloud, as well as in the cloud. And then on top of that, we're exporting all the data traffic that goes through here via NetFlow and via our security component to the Copilot. So you have a very rich amount of visibility that's built into the platform as well. So if I come over actually to our topology today, I just want to kind of stress here, obviously we aim to kind of sit at this kind of data center to cloud layer here. We don't want to actually have to replace all these units like Transit Gateway or Azure vWAN or anything like that. We can sit alongside those. For the sake of today's demo, we have built an architecture that does use Aviatrix for the kind of transit networking component as well. So we have our gateways running in some VPCs, in some individual VPCs where we have some test servers. These are using a service called Gaddis, where it's basically just doing some polling and things like that to define IP addresses and ports. And we've basically put our gateways in there and have built connectivity to the transit. So the last thing that we need to do is come in and build this overlay. Whoops, wrong layer there. Build this overlay on top of it to get connectivity between our cloud environments. And we'll show you some of the visibility options that come in with that. Okay, anything to add there, Mark, before we hop into the UI?
No, that's all good. Go ahead.
Sweet. All right. So if I pop over here to the Aviatrix Copilot, and I apologize, give me 1 second. My mouse is very delayed for some reason. Let me see if that helps. Okay. Okay, so if I come in here, this is our Aviatrix Copilot. So like I said, this is our one central unit where you're going to log in to do any kind of configuration, troubleshooting, management, et cetera, of the entire platform. So I'll do that all here, and you can see I have a number of options here. But if I come down here and go into the topology section, this is where you can kind of see a full breakdown of the overall cloud network as it's deployed in your environment, right? So each slice of the pie here is kind of representing a specific cloud service provider or CSP in a particular region. So if we kind of come back to this diagram here, we know we have these transit gateways built here, and we have our spoke gateways in the individual workload VPCs and VNets. The way that's articulated on here is we have this central ring, which is kind of acting as that backbone. So we have this transit ring. So this is representing my AWS transit, my Azure transit, and then I also have this SYD1 gateway down here that's running on top of Megaport MVE. And the way that was deployed, I don't know if Mark, do you want to get into that, how that was done?
Yeah, sure. I will. Maybe you can just open that up if you jump through
Yep.
to hybrid
Sure.
cloud and just edit that one. So to deploy the Aviatrix Secure Edge on the Megaport Virtual Edge platform, the first step is to come into Copilot and configure the Secure Edge. So you enter a name, you select the platform, which is just pre-configured for Megaport, enter a site name. You can see there's zero touch provisioning file type, which is cloud init. So that'll, when we hit next and configure the interfaces and finish up, you'll download a .cloudinit.txt file, which we load into the Megaport portal, and I'll show that in a minute. But basically, that's the config that you can see here, which will allow the Secure Edge on the MVE platform to connect back to the controller and join into the correct account and be configured correctly. So you can see here in terms of configuration options. So you're looking interfaces basically, and these are interfaces which will connect the secure edge virtual device into the cloud providers using the Megaport physical underlay. So you can see there WAN 0 is connected to AWS. So very typical configuration options like IP addressing, BGP, ASNs, etc. And WAN 1 is Azure, which is connecting into Azure Express Route, again, IP addressing and standard BGP ASNs. So the other options there are a LAN interface, which you could use to connect into a physical data center port to connect into the physical world across the Megaport fabric, and the management interface, which is used to connect back into, which is connected to the internet, which allows the virtual device to connect back into the controller. So purely just for management. Everything crossing between the clouds in this case is using the Megaport private network and transiting the secure edge running on MVE. And as Chris also pointed out, that is fully encrypted. So you don't need to, as you can see here, we're not configuring any type of IPsec tunnels or anything like that. That's all automated. So a couple of different options. With deployment, you can deploy, bring that cloud init file, and I'll just share my screen and show the Megaport portal. So you can see here within the Megaport portal, you can deploy manually using the create MVE option, and that'll step through a very simple deployment process. You choose the location, you choose the Aviatrix secure edge, the version of code, you put a name, you select the virtual CPU size that you want, and here you upload the cloud init file, and that will be loaded into the secure edge when it comes online. So a lot of this is bootstrapped. You can add your virtual interfaces here, and they align the VNICs, and they align to the interfaces configured within the Copilot portal. So that's one option. The other option is you can deploy using Terraform, and I'll just share quickly Terraform code. So you can see here, this is using the Megaport Terraform provider to deploy the Megaport Virtual Edge. As you can see here, and what we're doing here is you can see here Megaport MVE resource, and we're calling within here the Aviatrix image, and the cloud init file here is just a text file which we encode into base 64 encoding. And we define the VNICs just like you would in the portal. We define the Megaport Internet VXE, the AWS VXE, and the Azure VXE. So you've got options there. You can deploy either using the Megaport portal, or you can deploy it using Terraform. I'll hand it back over to you, Chris. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mark. Let me pop back into here to Copilot. Okay, so yeah, great. So essentially, as a pre-staging element for this demo, we did set up essentially all of this connectivity. So we have these gateways already pre-deployed. Mark's already put the Aviatrix Edge running on the Megaport solution. So the last thing we want to do is connect all this up, right? So we need to create some attachments from our cloud provider, our transits running in the cloud provider to that Megaport Virtual Edge. And like I said, we have some test servers here running just to kind of simulate connectivity. And as you can see here, these are all kind of showing red right now because we haven't connected anything, right? So there's no multi-cloud connectivity at this point, but that's going to be our goal here. So what I'm going to do is just simulate that by popping in here, and on here, what I want to do is I'll edit this edge gateway, and I'm basically just going to create connections to each one of my transit gateways in the cloud, right? So what I'm going to do is say I want to connect to my Aviatrix AWS transit on my WAN 0 interface, because I know that's where the direct connect is terminating. I'll choose the private network there, and I'll do the same thing for Azure on WAN 1, because that's where my express route is, public network. And then I'm going to click save here. And that's going to kick off a task to basically create an attachment on each of those. So what's going to happen is under the hood, it's building this encrypted connectivity between the on-premises environment and cloud. The kind of scalable tunnel nature that I told you about, where we can do that high performance encryption. You don't have to define that as a user. I'm automatically going to scale that to the maximum amount that the resources allow for that particular platform. So it looks like everything is getting spun up here. So let me double check these. That's there. And then I believe, yep. So it looks like my attachments are done. So I believe in just a moment, things should start coming up. But yeah, so we've built connectivity between here. So now we're basically just configured each of these servers to basically target each other on a random number of TCP ports. So once those peerings are built, we should see connectivity coming up. And I'm just going to check one last setting to make sure that it didn't undo itself, and it did not. So we should be good.
So
Maybe we didn't pray to the.
just one thing,
Yep.
Chris, in the
Mhm.
topology map, you can see the linking of the secure edge with the transit gateways, right?
Right,
So yeah,
right. So yeah, these new peerings have been built, right? So
yep.
these should come up momentarily. Sometimes it does take a few moments to do that. Hopefully we've prayed enough to the demo gods today, and they will come up. They did come up just before we joined the call, so hopefully everything's still the same. Um, there we go. Okay, all greens. That's what we want to see. So we have some connectivity starting to show up here. So that means our test servers are now talking. So let's kind of go back in here and let's open it up a little bit. Let's look at some of the visibility you can get from this. So if you remember at the beginning of the call, I said one of the points is we want to provide some common tooling back to the engineers and architects that are working on this type of architecture, right? So if I come down here to diagnostics and go to cloud routes, this is kind of a spot where I can kind of see all of my overlay routes that exist in the Aviatrix overlay from that perspective. So if I look at this topology, I can see this spoke VNet is configured with 10.33/16, and my AWS side is 10.2/16. So if I kind of open up each one of these, my AWS side spoke should now have a route for 10.33, which it does, and same thing on the remote side, right? For 10.2. Yep. And I can see that the next hop is actually pointed towards their local transit gateway. So obviously if I follow the routing, I should be able to see that all the way in on the other end as well. So if I look at the edge gateway down here at the bottom, I'm also going to have routes for each one of these endpoints pointed towards the transit as well. So you can kind of get, if you've done some of this overlay routing piece with some other the cloud native services, sometimes getting something as simple as looking at topology tables and looking at BGP routes and things like that can be relatively difficult. So we try to give that all to you in one unified view here. So if we kind of look at how the traffic is basically being injected into the overlay from the point of view of the workload, right? So if I come down here and look at my individual gateways, these are my two spokes up here at the top where the servers actually reside, right? So if I open up maybe AWS first, I can actually have a look directly into those VPC VNet route tables directly from here. So you don't have to actually juggle between the different cloud providers and look at the local route tables. And what you can see is I've automatically injected some RFC 1918 routes into there, pointed towards the ENI of the Aviatrix spoke in that. So that's how we're basically getting this traffic to ingress into its local local Aviatrix gateway and then propagating through the network, right? So another point I'll touch on, and Mark, do you have anything to add there? Or you?
So I guess just it would be good to explain like how these routes are learned, right? So
Sure.
it's not traditional routing, right?
True. Yep. So that's a great point. So if I come down here to cloud routes, so like I said, these are overlay routes that exist in the network, right? So Aviatrix is responsible for building an overlay, right? So any kind of routing that happens between our gateways is all happening via an SDN overlay. So we're doing software defined routing over the top with some proprietary things built in to make sure that we're calculating best path and things like that. However, if you do interface with a data center, like let's say down here, if this edge gateway actually needed to peer with some data center equipment that you have in that facility, like a router or something like that, that's going to run BGP, right? So you can look at things like external connections. You can see BGP info and see. This is actually a good example. This is the edge talking to the underlay network. So obviously we have Direct Connect and Express Route built here. I can actually come in here and look at things like learned routes, etc., on the external BGP connections and how they get injected into the overlay on top of that as well, right? This is kind of a weird scenario because it's underlay routes, so we don't inject them into the overlay necessarily, but you can see all of that from here. But yeah, it would be all SDN based routing over the top. And like I said before, this is functioning as a gateway, right? So every bit of traffic that goes through our gateway is exported to Copilot via NetFlow. So if you think of flow logs and things like that you typically get from the cloud provider, sometimes those can be relatively rudimentary and only give you certain things or only certain details about the traffic, whereas we're exporting full NetFlow data about all the traffic that goes through here. And this is, you can actually dive down into any detail that you need to in terms of looking at the actual traffic here. So if I want to actually put a filter in here, I could say, maybe I want to look for a specific destination port of something like, 443. I can say I only want to look at TCP 443 traffic, right? And I can get that kind of breakdown and go even further. One thing I think is also really cool about this is, and Mark, you'll probably agree with me here, is that, if you're using something like maybe the Megaport cloud router to do your multi-cloud connectivity, great service, provides a great deal of connectivity and things like that. But sometimes if you want to do some troubleshooting, you may be limited in what options you can use there. So if I come down here to diagnostics and go into the tools, and actually select that SID1, which is our edge gateway, I can do plenty of troubleshooting directly from here, from the perspective of that Megaport edge router, right? So I can run a ping out to the internet if I want to verify that it has internet connectivity, something like that. I can do trace routes. I can look at active sessions that are going through this gateway. And I can even do a live packet capture directly here on the interface, right? So if I run this directly, I'll just set it to 10 seconds. I'm going to get a full breakout of all the traffic that's been captured going through that Aviatrix edge, and I can even export that to a PCAP file, etc. So you have some really great diagnostics tools built into this gateway, and this type of feature is available on any of the gateways you see on this topology here. So it's not just the MVE, it could be the transit, the spoke, what have you. So yeah, there's some really good options for visibility here.
Yeah,
Anything else to add, Mark?
and that was or is the goal that of the topology that we're showing now is a multi-cloud
Right.
connectivity topology. So nothing is required physically in the data centers. We're connecting two public cloud providers together over the private Megaport fabric using the secure edge on MVE. There's a number of different ways you could do that. Yes, you could use the Megaport cloud router. It is a very simplified, very lightweight virtual routing service, which does a very good job. But if you're really looking for a lot more features, definitely Secure Edge running on MVE can meet a lot of those requirements. So,
Definitely.
and one of the major ones is encryption between the clouds, because even if you wanted to just do encryption across an MCR, so you don't terminate the tunnels on the MCR, but you just go between the clouds. It's a very, very complex process with a lot of different limitations, throughput limitations, and you saw today how easy it was to build that encrypted overlay.
Right.
So there are definitely a lot of advanced feature set that you get out of running Secure Edge on our on the Megaport Virtual Edge platform. Thanks, Chris. That brings us to 30 minutes. So that's really good. We finished right on time. Appreciate you joining today and walking
Of course.
through Aviatrix. We're going to finish up, but if you would like to watch this video, it's available on the Megaport Solutions YouTube channel, and along with a whole lot of other videos, Megaport fundamental videos, if you want to go back and look at those. But thanks a lot, Chris, for your time.
No
Thank you.
worries.
See you later.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.
Bye.